everyone, welcome back to Function Pilates. Today is day one of our 8-part beginner series, and our theme is awareness. As we move through today's class, I want you to bring your attention inward. Start building awareness of your body, what you feel, how you're moving, and what's happening beneath the surface. Notice which muscles are activating, where you might feel tension or stiffness, and when your body begins to relax and open up. So this series is all about moving with intention and building a deeper understanding of the principles behind Pilates. It's not about rushing through the motions, it's about feeling them, learning them, and truly integrating them into your body. So take your time, stay present, and let's go ahead and get started.
Let's go ahead and start with our spring selection here. And I have on 2 mediums and 1 heavy spring. And once you have selected those springs, go ahead and lie yourself on down. You can relax those feet on the foot bar and make sure that you are nice and centered through the headrest as well. Go ahead and bring your hands on top of your ribs so that your fingers are looking at one another and your elbows are wide. And we're going to begin with 2 of the most important things with Pilates is understanding how to breathe and how to find our neutral spine. Now from here, I want you to go ahead and think of basically rocking your pelvis forward so that you're heavy in your tailbone. And then I want you to rock your low back so that it's completely flat against the carriage here. Then slowly go ahead and add in a rock over to your right hip, going back up to flatten your low back and swivel it all the way over so there's weighted pressure into your left hip, and then circulate back down to the heaviness of your tailbone. So we're going to go into what we call pelvic clocks. So you're going to put the weight into the right hip all the way back to flatten through the lumbar spine, circulate over to the left hip, back towards your pelvic floor while stabilizing the legs and the knees here. Once you've done that a few times, try the other way. And we can notice some sticky areas in our body, or if we're not as mobile from one side or the other. So it can feel quite challenging, but we have this movement that we are allowed to participate in with our hips, and we need to learn how to stabilize and build that hip stability. So once we have now established this understanding of neutral spine and pelvic clocks, where we are rocking our hips all the way around, we can now focus in on the breathing. So think of breathing in through your nose and allowing your ribs to expand into the palms of your hands. It's almost as if you were thinking of your ribs expanding to opposite directions of the room here. And as you take a long exhale out from your mouth, naturally the fingertips are going to bring back together. So you almost want to think of that as cinching your waist here. So inhaling through the nose, allow the ribs to expand widely. Exhale, just naturally allow those fingertips to pull back together. And it's such an important concept to understand how the breathing is done in Pilates so that we can integrate this all throughout our movement patterns. So now that the introduction of neutral spine and breathing has been made, we will continue to circle back with that on every single workout. But let's go into our warm-up. So headrest is going to go down completely flat, and you'll place your feet, your arches of your feet on the ledge, so just right below the foot bar, and then relax those arms down beside you. Make sure you have some space between your shoulders and your shoulder blocks. So let's combine what we learned by rocking our pelvis forward, and then I want you to press your palms into the carriage, rock your hips back, and peel your spine all the way off the carriage into our first pelvic curl. You'll slowly articulate the spine to lower back down. And as we continue to go through each repetition, I want you to focus on equal amount of pressure in the bottoms of your feet. I want you to think about, are my legs moving? Are my knees moving? Or are they being silent and quiet, maintaining alignment with your hips here? because that's what we're trying to achieve. We're also trying to achieve articulation, stretching of the spine to really elongate through the spine here. Now, the muscle focus is going to be on the back side of the legs. So you should feel your hamstrings and your glutes working big time. Some of you guys might even start to cramp if you haven't really moved throughout the day. It could be just from stiffness or tightness. Let's take our hands and place them on the pegs behind us and find one leg at a time into a tabletop position. Glue the knees together as a unit, and I want you to slowly let your legs fall over to one side, and then with this heaviness, creating the work to pull them back up through center. So your shoulder blades will stay connected to the carriage. You will feel that one hip is going to lift away from the carriage, so that's normal. But the most important thing here is as we sway our legs back and forth is that the upper body remains quiet. That's where we're going to emphasize the oblique work. So soften through your neck and shoulders, and then our breath pattern is going to be inhale over to the side. You're going to use your exhale to pull back through center and really start to tune in. What does that feel like? Am I using my breath or am I breathing through my chest here? This is stuff we'll work on and we'll get better at. So again, over to one side, keep those knees hugging together, maybe even send the energy out through your toes. And you want to think of exhaling as you pull up through center, not having a death grip so much on that peg. Beautiful job as we're just starting to open up through our low back, bringing heat into our core. Excellent. And coming back through center. We can take our feet back to the ledge, and I'd like you to, for hook lying position. Hook lying is basically us just lying down with our knees bent. And then take those hands to support the back of your neck, and we'll go into a chest lift. So an inhale here to prepare. Exhale to flex the spine, eyesight down towards your belly button, and inhale to lower back down again. So go ahead into this repetition, and we're only doing a few because we are just warming up the body, but then take the breath that we did earlier. Are your ribs expanding and are they cinching together on that exhalation? So notice that and identify it. Beautiful. And come back down. Good. Exhale, curl up, eyesight down to the belly button. It's so important because a lot of us want to look right up at the sky, and that's where we create limbo in our neck and we create extra tension. So think of that tension going into your abdominal muscles here to support your hips. You should be able to watch your hips, and they should be nice and quiet where there isn't any movement like we were doing before when we were finding our neutral spine. Beautiful. So now we can go into our footwork. And if you'd like to take that headrest back up, go ahead to a nice comfortable position. But we're going to begin with the heels on top of the foot bar, so your toes will look up at the ceiling. Arms are going to be down by your sides, and just think of this energy reaching out through your fingertips. Go ahead and press on out to two straight legs. Maybe double check your alignment. You'd be surprised how our alignment, we think we're in alignment, but then it shifts once we take a look at it. And now as we're going through this, I want you to facilitate this movement from the back side of your legs here. And I know that might feel hard or tricky. You're not quite sure yet how that is supposed to feel, but I want you to contract the back of your legs as you stretch out to two straight legs. And then if that's okay, we'll move on. And I want you to think about your ankles being very stable, very quiet here, as if the bottoms of your feet were pressing up against a wall. And we'll get better at that. So after about 10 repetitions, we can shift down to our toes. Think of elevating your heels and press out again. And this is going to feel a little bit more challenging for some because it's a longer distance. And maybe you do have to reduce the spring tension, totally fine. So do what feels right for you. But I want the backs of those legs to be in charge here. And that's what you have to circle back with and understand, is your body actually doing that? Are you favoring one foot over the other? Are you favoring certain toes or the ball of your foot? So again, we want equal weight distribution. Even if you do need to be all in the ball of your foot, let's again focus on symmetry. We want to find the balance on the bottom of the foot here. Extend. Slowly bringing back that carriage. We'll keep our toes on, and then we're going to connect our heels together to make our Pilates first position here, our Pilates V. And then go ahead and press out again. So our goal is to keep those heels connected at all times. So there's a sense of inner thigh activation that's occurring here. At least that's what we want to happen. And all of this footwork that we're doing, all of these different variations that we're going through is helping to strengthen our ankles, our knees, and our hips. This is a dynamic movement pattern, and we want to use our breath to help with this movement pattern. We want to establish, how do we activate our pelvic floor? How do we get stronger through our stabilizing muscles that support our spine? Yes, this might be a little bit too much for some, but this is where Pilates is coming from. When we understand the concept behind it, we naturally grow. So let's take our heels on top of the foot bar wide. We're going to stay in that flex position, slight external rotation there at the hip joint, and then press on out. And I'm aiming for about 10 repetitions here for each of these variations. So definitely do what feels right for you. So even if that's 6 repetitions with each variation, by all means, start there. You can always work your way up to about 10 or 12 later on. But this is about a default. Beautiful. Again, do a little check-in, a little inventory with yourself. How's your neck and shoulders? How's the energy coming out through your palms? Sometimes we don't realize it, but we start to make a fist, or we're noticing that we're on the tips of our fingers. And now that we're on our heels again, think of those feet up against that imaginary wall. Let's move it down to our toes. And you're going to go ahead and push on out again, a longer distance, a little bit more challenging. Take your time with it. But establishing that breath again, inhaling through the nose, exhale to press out, and just visualizing your rib cage expanding on that inhale as you soften your knees. And as you're exhaling, you can almost visualize your ribs cinching back together. Perfect. Kneecaps should be looking straight up towards the ceiling. Everything's very intentional here. So we don't want any floppiness occurring. Perfect. Getting stronger with each press out. And then let's carefully move it back to the center. Feet are not together. They're about hip distance apart, but I'll have you just push out straight and then drop both those heels under for a stretch, and then carefully bring those heels back up. So these are our calf raises. And the main thing here is that we are adding articulation through the ankle while we are strengthening through our calves here. So again, if you don't have a lot of mobility or flexibility, I should say, through your toes and your ankles, you may want to reconsider your spring selection as well, so that you are able to get in anywhere from 10 to 20 of these repetitions here. And like I said, this is day one. This is something you can circle back to and watch yourself grow as you progress. So very, very fundamental foundational exercises that we're doing. Beautiful. And just taking this time to be silent with yourself, to really feel, what is your body saying to you? Let's bend the knees to come back in. Just take a moment. Just find your breath again. Especially if this is your first time doing Pilates, you have to be gentle with yourself. And this is just, new exercises. but we're going to go into what we call running. So you're just going to bend one knee and then you're going to switch to the other. So one leg will be straight, one leg will bend basically, and you'll articulate through the toes again and really emphasize the lift up. So that's really important because that's the work. But then you're also working really hard as you drop the heel under. Otherwise, it could just basically plop down if we don't have control. And then go ahead and take a few more here if your calves are willing to do that with you. Again, I'm going for about 5 on each side, or you can go up to 10 and then come right back in again. Okay, take a moment there, find your breath. We'll sit ourselves up here. It's so important to always rock over to the side as you sit yourself up so it's less strenuous on your back. But I'm adjusting this spring selection again to 1.5 springs. So I do have a medium and a light spring on. And once you've done that, go ahead and grab a hold of your handles or your loops. And we're going to find the wrist over our shoulders. And once we have found that resistance in our ropes, then we can take one leg at a time into tabletop. And I was just double checking to make sure my handles were even. So that's important to do as well when you're at home. Good. Energize through those legs. And on this next exhale, press those arms down. Inhale to float them up where the wrist stays right over the shoulders. And I have the heavier spring selection here, mainly because the focus is going to be on upper body strength. Of course, you're going to feel your abdominals working here, but there is more of a sense of stability with the springs. And because I'm not adding flexion today in this workout, I want you to definitely feel more of the arms and the back extensors taking place here. If for some reason you have low back pain or discomfort, cross your ankles. That's an option to do. If you need to take a break in the middle and then go right back into it. One other thing I want to point out is always bring your knees in closer towards your chest and lift your heels up higher. That might be your tabletop today, and that's okay, where we'll work on getting the knees directly over the hips here. Beautiful. So again, this is done very intentionally, slowly with control. And then let's take a little breather. So take a rest. The abs were on, they're supposed to be. And then we'll set ourselves up for a T press. So arms are going out to a T. You should be able to see your hands in your peripheral vision, and then one leg at a time back into tabletop. Inhale there and exhale to pull that energy in towards your hips. And I like to visualize that. I like to visualize that we're gathering this energy so that I can focus on activating through my lats. Because that is what the muscle focus is here, is through the sides of our back. And of course, you're going to feel your abdominals working. And because those legs are in tabletop, and it's so important to double check where they're at in space in tabletop. Because that'll go back to how you're feeling in the lower portion of your spine. Keep drawing your belly button in towards the back of your shirt to help create stability. Good, take a break. Take a little breather here, and we'll set ourselves up for the next part of this series. So we're going to combine those two exercises for up-down circles. So you're going to exhale to press both your arms straight down. Hovering off the carriage, we'll open to a T and be very quiet as you bring your arms back up. So it is now a little bit more what we call mechanical. So you're pressing down, open out to a T, quiet the movement of the carriage, and then let's reverse it. So I'm only doing about 3 each way because, again, we do have the heavier springs tension. So if you're not used to doing it with heavier spring tension, the shoulders are going to definitely feel this. and then bring it back up carefully. Take another breather here. Again, I am trying to add in more of the breaks so that you can really focus in on the form. So elbows are bent, fingertips towards the ceiling, tabletop one at a time, the legs, and then we're going to go ahead and straighten the arms for our tricep press. So the goal here is to keep your elbows off the carriage, and I want your elbows next to your rib cage. And that is what I'm asking for today. So think of the back of those arms really being activated and heating up. Again, using your breath. You should be able to hear your breath. Think of the space that's being developed between your shoulders and your ear. Beautiful job. And then let's go ahead and bring it down. Carefully go ahead and sit yourself up, and we'll change out our springs anywhere from 1 medium and 1 extra light all the way up to 2 mediums. So if we're feeling like we want a little bit of heaviness in our legs, I would go a little bit higher. If you want a little bit lighter weight, go lower. And if you don't already have your loops on, go ahead and change those out. And then you can carefully lie yourself back down. My headrest is about halfway up, so that's comfortable for me. Check your straps to make sure that they're even, and then place one strap into your arch of your foot one at a time. So just find that resistance as you press into your loops here. And we'll go ahead and take our legs up. Good, get comfortable. Make sure you have a little rest between your shoulders and the shoulder blocks. And then from here, as your legs are parallel, I'm going to have you lower and lift your legs here. So when we go down very low towards the springs, you can notice your back begins to arch. And if you bring your legs towards your chest, you'll notice that your tailbone begins to lift. So we want to stay grounded. That is our most neutral position, our safe position. And unless I was to say to lower all the way down towards the springs, I really want you to pay attention to those middle points here. So as we begin moving, take that exhale to hinge from your hips, lower your legs down to a point where it feels good on your back. So you're feeling in control of your abdominal muscles, and this work is being facilitated from the back of your legs. So think hamstrings here. Allow the energy to come out from your toes as you just feel like you're getting longer as your legs reach out of your hip sockets. We'll check in with our upper body, so arms are long and flat, palms are pressing against the carriage. And this allows for expansion in our chest and our collarbone. Think of the top of your head reaching to the back of the room to really open up the spine through the neck. Beautiful job. Nice, easy, controlled pace here. Exhale, lower down, and inhale to bring it back up. And I'm going for about 10 repetitions here. So again, this is a default setting, so do what feels right in your body. From here, turn the toes out so you're in Pilates V, and we'll go into what we call frog. So knees are right over the hips here. Heels are hugging together. Take an exhale to extend both legs out to 45. So you're pushing at a diagonal outward into the resistance. And then when you return back in, you want to be mindful that your knees are not coming all the way into your chest. There is a stopping point where you want to have those knees directly over the hips. And the reason why I'm saying this is because this is helping to build hip strength here. So the whole purpose of this exercise and a couple more variations that we're going to do is all about hip strengthening, creating more pelvic stability, and how to become more aware of the activation through our pelvic floor. So using those Kegel muscles, Kegel exercises. Beautiful. Extend. And then from here, we'll go parallel and we'll add in our circles. So go ahead and press down with both legs, separate the legs, circle all the way back around again. And now you may be asking, well, how wide do I go? How far? What works for your body today? We want to almost stay within the framework of the reformer, so opening out wide, possibly to how wide your reformer is personally. And if you have the ability to separate even further without getting a little loosey-goosey in the hips, then that's okay to do. But if you start to lose it and you can feel the wobbly sensation because you're opening out wider because it feels good, you're getting a great stretch and that's amazing, you've gone too far for right now. Excellent. Just circling those legs around. We're building mobility. We're creating synovial fluid. Basically, that just means that we're lubricating at the hip joints here. How are the abdominals doing? Are we drawing those abs down and in towards our spine? That does help create a deeper connection to promote more pelvic stability. So let's go ahead and reverse that circle. And it's almost like you want to, as you open your legs out, gather this energy as you bring your legs back together. You should feel the inner thigh connection as you're doing this. It should feel like work. If you were there like closing your eyes and relaxing, like we need to build awareness. That is what our theme is today. So there's plenty of other times for us to relax, but this is about hip strengthening. Beautiful. And then notice, let's take it a little bit further. If you can, is one leg going out more so than the opposite leg? Because that's huge awareness. Are we dominating on this side? Are we weaker on the other side, or tighter, I should say? So begin to ask yourself these questions and identify. So bringing those knees in towards your chest, just get a little bit of a stretch and then push on out back to 45, heels together, toes apart. And I'm going to have you guys just go ahead and separate your legs all the way wide to a point that feels good for you. And then exhale, squeeze your heels back together to 45. Visualize that your heels are sitting on top of the table surface and you're gliding your heels back together here. Perfect. And again, you are creating this energetic energy, this feeling like it's magnetic as you bring those inner thighs and work those adductors together. Again, bringing some internal heat into the body as you build more awareness in your body on how this feels. Excellent. Continue to breathe, soften through your neck and shoulders, and just really focus on fine-tuning your movements right here. So it's not floppy. Everything is very activated, it's contracting in a way that we want it to. So bringing the knees in, we'll take one foot out at a time. Find your foot bar right away. Hang up your loops on your pegs. And we'll come up and give ourselves a nice stretch here. So we'll go into Eve's lunge, and we can reduce our spring tension down to one medium. Go ahead and place your left foot up against the shoulder block. Right foot is down on the floor, and line your big toe up with the outside of where the foot bar is at. It's good alignment. And as you push back into a low lunge, then let's correct our form here. So make sure your right knee is over your ankle. Your chest is lifted. Your arms are straight. Hands are still on the foot bar. And you want to think of tucking your tailbone under. Let's come up for your hamstring stretch. So nice flat back. Your right leg is straight. Square out your pelvis. So make some adjustments as you move to feel that stretch. And then we'll go ahead and lock it back in one more time into your lunge. Tailbone's tucked under. You should feel this in the front of your left hip flexor. Go right into your hamstring stretch. Press it out. And if I'm going too fast for you and you're like, oh, I like this a lot, I want to stay here, do what feels good for you. And then we'll take it over to the other side. So carefully walking around, setting up our right foot up against the shoulder block, more of that runner's lunge. If you need a knee pad or a pillow of some sort under your knee, definitely grab that to make it as comfortable as possible so that you're getting the most out of this hip flexor stretch. Good. Keep that tailbone tucked under, chest lifted. Just shine your hips forward. Continue to breathe. Bring yourself back up, straighten out your left leg, square out your pelvis. And that's important because you will get a lot more deepening of the stretch in the hamstring with a squared pelvis, squared hips. So you want to adjust your hips slightly, like right or left, forward or back. Back into your low lunge. And then finish it off with one more hamstring stretch here. Shoulders are down. Again, arms are straight. Try not to take your hands down to the frame of the reformer. I know some people like to get a little bit more, but it does reduce the actual stretch here. So moving forward, we're going to go into some arms, and I'm going to use the box today, and it's in a long box position. I already have that medium spring on, so I'm going to stay there. Headrest is going to go down, and go ahead and find your loops and place them into your hands. So make sure that when you're sitting on the box that you're in a nice tall seated position, shoulders over those hips, and that you're not really dumping into your low back or leaning too far back. So abs are pulled into the spine, arms are energetic and long. It's like those fingertips are reaching to the floor as you exhale, take your arms straight back. So that's the only moving limbs here. Everything else is quiet. Good. Eyesight is forward, so try not to look down, try not to look up. It's like you had a book on the top of your head here. You have these heavy buckets of water sitting on your shoulders. And then all I want you guys to really be thinking about is abs are being pulled in towards your spine. This work is coming from your back muscles right below your armpit and into the back of your arms, into your triceps. How much further can you get your fingertips to reach the floor so that we can create this length in our arms? Okay, so let's move it into bicep curls. So bend at the elbows, and then you're flexing at your elbow. And the position here is, I want you guys to have your elbows just slightly below your shoulders. Fingertips are looking straight up. And if you need to lean back, go ahead and lean back if you want more resistance. That's totally fine. I'd rather you scoot yourself back on the box as opposed to add more springs, if that makes any sense. Good. Inhaling and exhale. Really focus on practicing using that breath that we learned earlier before our warm-up. You're not going to know it overnight, but this is going to take over the course, even further than the course of 8 weeks, to really start to listen to the breath and know when to use it, how our breath actually helps us in our exercises. Good. Lower that down. And then from here, I'm going to have you go into what we call butterfly. So you're going to take your arms through the loops. Palms are looking at you. Elbows are just below the shoulders, and you'll go ahead and open up your arms only to the point where you see your elbows in your peripheral vision. So the goal is to keep your back between your shoulder blades as flat as possible. The goal is not to squeeze your shoulder blades together. So I hope that makes sense, because I want you to feel this work developing from the back of your shoulder. This is helping to realign our shoulders so we're not hunching over, that we are gaining more strength to stay in a more upright position while we are working at our desk, driving our car, things like that. Beautiful. Shoulders are down, neck is staying soft. Do a quick inventory. How's your spine doing? That's why this theme is awareness. There's so many things to think about, but you don't want to overwhelm yourself with it. You want to just slowly gravitate and capture what you can at this point. So hanging up those loops, I'm going to have you go ahead and carefully turn to the side. And we can stay on the spring tension. If it's too heavy for you, go ahead and reduce it, but find a nice, good, comfortable position on the box. So the closest to the shoulder blocks you are, the easier the tension will be. The further away, the more resistance. And then interlacing those hands together, you're going to go and rotate to your left here. So we're going into what we call a seated rotation. So think of, as you rotate to the left, your your torso is spiraling upward so that you stay tall and that you don't shrink down. You don't collapse in your spine, basically. And then let's stay very focused and active through our hips. So we want to stay grounded and emphasize the obliques here. So when you twist, like you're wringing yourself out like a towel, maybe you're contracting through those left obliques a little further. Beautiful. And go ahead and hang that up. Swivel to turn yourself over to the other side carefully. And we'll continue to grow. You're going to see a lot of some of the same exercises as we go through this program, but it's all about mastering, getting better. And it's like, okay, this doesn't feel so new anymore. Now I can think about all the things that I'm supposed to be thinking about. So as you go into your second round here, again, elbows are wide, a nice soft circle is being developed in front of our chest with our arms. And remember, when we rotate, there is a thing called false rotation. And that means sometimes we just turn our head, but we're not actually turning our entire torso. So are you doing that? And if you are, minimal movement through your torso is completely fine today, because maybe your spine hasn't rotated in a way like that, or you're just not stretched out. Okay, set that down. And we're going to finish up today's workout with a little extension. So we're going to go into swan prep, and I still have not changed my springs. I'm still on that 1 medium. So lie on your stomach, energize those legs for me, and make sure they are slightly separated. Lift it off the box. Push out to 2 straight arms for me, and lift your chest up to a point where it feels good for you. Lower your chest down and begin to bend your elbows to return back in. Beautiful. Push on out. Lift to a point where it feels good, where you're not shrugging your shoulders, but maybe you're getting this nice low back stretch here. And I want you to squeeze your butt cheeks as you're doing this. It helps to protect through the low back. Good. And then let's talk about our breath here. So I'm going to have you go ahead and take that exhale in. And then you're going to do a long inhalation as you lift your chest up, because that's when we typically inhale on extension, and we exhale when we lower down into flexion. In this case, it's more neutral position. Beautiful. If you have a tendency to hyperextend through your elbows, make sure you do have a micro bend there. Perfect. Press on out. Lift and engage those back muscles. Feel the muscles on top of your shoulder blades just running down your back here. So important to help strengthen these back muscles. We seldom do, and we're seldom on our stomachs anyways. So let's really give it all we have in these last few repetitions. Good job. Bring it back in nice and soft. And then carefully, I'll have you exit off to one side here. Wonderful job today, guys. So I love to finish every workout with a couple roll downs just to kind of like set it, like just finalize everything. So standing hip distance apart, sweep those arms up towards the ceiling. Go ahead and dive down, reach those fingertips towards the floor. Just check in with yourself and begin to rebuild your spine up one vertebra at a time. Head's the last thing to come up. Arms are going to go back up. Beautiful. Take a dive. Maybe you're going down a little further this time. Excellent. Slowly rebuild your spine. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I hope you liked it, and I will see you next week in our day 2.